everyone. Welcome once again to one of our Happy Memorial Library events. We are so excited for Hispanic Heritage Month. We have the best of the best in artists, Mr. Mario Munguia Jr.
Correct.
And he actually did an art exhibit here at CTC, and we were lucky enough to grab him to do a talk and a demonstration about his work, which is inspired by Mexico, correct? Yes. All righty. Well, hello, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
All right, well, take it away.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much again for having me. And for those people that aren't familiar with my show, Que Onda, which was I think it was last fall. And can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right. And so this was an image from that show, from the reception of that show. Um, and then here's some of the installation shots of the artwork there in the library. And the show was a combination. It was a lot of fun for me to curate because it was new work, and some of my older work. And I used to really emphasize ceramics as my main medium. And I pulled out some of those older artworks from my undergraduate degree, graduate degree, and then what I've been doing recently. But here, since I've been teaching high school, I've kind of gravitated more towards painting and ceramics equally. So this was at the time a year before that show, and then this was that summer, just a couple months before. And this work, which I'll get back to at the very end, was some of my newest at the time, that I had just completed the month before. So, and I'm still kind of working in this style right now. This is some of my older work from my undergraduate career. I went to the University of Texas at Tyler, and then what I was doing drawing as a kind of like as a beginning focus. So I think drawing has a good foundation for all the arts, whether you go eventually do sculpture, painting, or even performance. And what I was doing one time in class was drawing these monsters, and the professors and my instructors really enjoyed them. So it just translated effortlessly into ceramic. Before college, me working with clay, I didn't like it. So it just kind of all magically worked together, came together in this one semester, and I just, uh, I got more ambitious with what I was making and doing different shows as well, and it just kept growing. Yeah, so this is circa 2013 to 16. And so I'm also kind of working with the tradition of like vessels in some of these examples. So ceramic vessels. And then these in particular are done with the raku firing method, which is a shorter firing method, and it's very spontaneous too as well. So this is how you get some of these lusters, and then some carbon trapping that creates those dark areas and all the voids of the sculptures. This is my undergraduate senior exhibition, so you can see my drawings there in the background. The sculptures are on pedestals, and these are friends and family with some masks that I had for the reception. Very enjoyable, lots of fun. All right, and so then I had a lot of momentum. I was in a really important juried exhibition in Sigue, which is the annual ceramic conference. And then I was, of course, got my undergraduate degree, and then I got accepted into ASU, so Arizona State University, in Phoenix and Tempe. So I chose ASU because it's the number five program for ceramics in the country, and so they have at the Ceramic Research Center an extensive collection of American contemporary ceramics. So there was a lot of research opportunities there at ASU, and then graduate students got to work in Grant Seach Studios, which was just in downtown Phoenix. So this is a shot of my studio with me as a student there. And there'd be a lot of events where a lot of patrons and public had come in and visit us in the studios. So we had to have they could see us our work in progress, and we could also give our little elevator talk, 2, 3 minute. Here's my work. Here's my interests, that kind of stuff. On the left here, this is one of the biggest sculptures I ever made, and it's an árbol de la vida, which translates to tree of life. And this is a pretty popular traditional Mexican folk art or Latin American craft. So I did my version with the monsters. I also did a residency in Rome around this time. That's the picture on the right. These are the pieces that I made while I was in Rome. So here you have basically a Pope-like figure, right? And this is all these little bases right here are impressions that I got. I got the clay in the studio and I went out into the streets and kind of did the textures on the streets. So that was really fun to do as well. And I think in graduate school, I did a lot of questioning, as one does about what your work is about, how you evolve. And since I had just come from my undergraduate degree and I was doing these characters, kind of wanted to get away from that, but I ended up coming full circle back to all of it in a much stronger way. So I did have that period of questioning, but then I think I came back, and I'll show you some images too of that thesis exhibition that I had. These are some images from a show in downtown Mexico City. So these are artists from all over the country in Mexico. And this particular exhibition was all based on the Nativity. So uh, the materials were basically everything. There was Nativity represented through food, through paper, through sculpture, ceramic, painting. It was really, really interesting. Here's some Oaxacan woodcraft, but everyone tells the story of the Nativity. So that kind of seeing this kind of sparked something for me in terms of like one story or one idea being told in multiple different ways. And then the pink pedestals really inspired me too. You'll see some. I took that idea directly for my thesis exhibition. You'll see in a little bit. Same trip, I was able to visit the Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo studio home. So if you're familiar with Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo, prominent Mexican artists, this is where they lived and work, right? So this was specifically for them, and then it's a museum now. And so on the inside, I got to see their extensive collection of different Latin American folk art and crafts that they collected. So these are these giant paper mache figures, and they're hanging on the wall too. Very unique architecture, but around them are all these crafts that I think are very inspiring. And so the space that you're seeing is the studio, but it also doubles as a museum now. And this is a shot of my thesis exhibition. And like I was saying, I had a lot of questions about what I wanted my work to be about, but ultimately, I think me, like my thoughts, my obsession with these monsters was the main topic. And I was sitting with my committee one time. We were thinking about what to call my show, and one of them said, "Call it Mario Scenario." So there you see. Because every time I enter a space or like a personal studio, I just seem to take over, especially like with all the drawings that I have on the walls. So I filled up this back wall with drawings, had the sculptures there. There's that pink pedestal that I mentioned, some Latin American folk craft. So just a survey of a lot of different things coming together. And then in this thesis exhibition, I created this piece, Nino, uh, and it was very different than everything else I've kind of shown you up to this point. So some of the form is a little simplified, and it's just some drawing onto there too as well. And it just felt different. I did sell this piece, but I think it's an important marker of that transition or that kind of precursor to the style I'm about to work in right now. I didn't realize this until, I do several presentations. This was at a watercolor museum in Mexico City, these sculptures on the outside. And I just think it's interesting that I found this picture, this shape and these primary colors kind of really matches that artwork I just showed. Let's see if I can go back to it. This one right here. So maybe I subconsciously kind of took that in and it's kind of stayed there and lingered. Anyway, here's some more shots of my thesis exhibition. And there's the back and the front of that Árbol de la Vida, Tree of Life. And then also this one right here. These were both, though this one was in the Gale Night exhibition at Central Texas College. I did some rocks too as well. That's a whole different trajectory there during my graduate career. But here are some more images. And then drawing, I brought the drawing onto the pedestals too as well. So they're kind of telling you a whole different story that goes along with the artwork that's displayed on top of the pedestal. So there's some close-ups there. So lots of stimulation, lots of imagery. That's kind of how my brain works. Everything it looks good in groups and in pairs, and I think it just continually feeds itself. Um, After graduate school, I came back home to Paris, Texas, and then I'm teaching still currently at a local high school and adjuncting at the local community college. And so this is from one of our competitions that we hosted at our school, the vase competition. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. Um, but it's kind of like a UIL for arts. And then I'm the director also as well for our region. There's 29 different regions in the state of Texas for this competition for high school art students. But these are some of the works from over the years. Of course, not all of them. Um, and I think being an artist, it's important because you might see some connection in between, the student work and my work. And it does change, I think, when you move geographically somewhere, or depending on what kind of environment you're in, especially as an artist, whether you're in a communal studio or you're teaching, some of the influences from your students kind of comes into the work too. And so when I was in class teaching painting, I was like, they're having so much fun painting, I want to paint. And I think that's what really brought me back to the painting. Yeah. So now I'm doing bold colors, patterns, but still kind of working in that Latin American art influence with the painting. So these are more recent examples. This is a close-up of some of the artwork from the Que Onda show. These are reworked a little bit from my time in undergraduate school. And then this piece, so this is where the sculpture is now transitioning to this current style. And back when I had that Que Onda show, I had literally finished these the month before. And so they were still really fresh on my mind I hadn't processed them or done my critiques or anything. Like, do I like them? Were they successful? But I get kind of away from that in the sense that, maybe I'll kind of ingest them more still years down the line. I just do the work right now and, let the reflections come later. These are all from last April. It's a little more recent. And I have a couple to show you here in the studio in just a second. So again, this new style where I have the simplified forms, right? There's no crazy textures. Um, like this one's just plain. All the painting is done on top of just the plain body, right? And I'll have this one to show you. And then the brushwork is really loose. And so are the shapes too as well. So I'm kind of playing with a lot of different surface patterns and designs. So I think the sculpting and the painting is starting to kind of come all together. And then this is just some work in progress that I have right now in the studio, some new paintings. And then I'm going to work on these right now. These are my sketches and these works that I'm about to work on. This one, so I was just talking about, influence, inspiration from students. My name is always funny to pronounce, Munguia, but a lot of people can't pronounce it, so I'll have different nicknames like Mr. Mongaluga, Mr. Miyagi, all those kinds of funny names. And then this last semester, I also teach seventh graders. Hongadinga was an expression they kept coming up with, so I was Mr. Hongadinga for a time. And this is one of the assignments that we do is creating your own emoji, and they have to create an emoji that's never been thought of, an original design. And one of the students did Mr. Hongadinga, and I was like, "Can I take that? I'm going to take that and make it into an art piece." So I'm taking that idea, and I'm about to finish this artwork. All right, and so here's another one that I'm currently working on, which I'll get to. Well, there's that. And yeah, do you have any questions at the moment?
Well, I am just, fascinated.
Yeah.
by the fact that you have these creatures, like you went through the phase with all these, nightmare creatures, and now you're coming up with all these smooth. It's just like, as I told you when you had your art exhibit, doesn't look like the same person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's really fun to watch how you progress from one era to another era.
And it did come just very naturally, like I was saying, I did the 3 years and another 3 years of graduate and undergraduate back to back. And I did want to kind of get away from it, but then, just kind of still wasn't ready to let go. But now, 4 years later, I've naturally just said, okay, this is what I kind of want to do right now. Yeah. So it happens. Yeah. Mhm.
I have another question.
Yes, absolutely.
The colors that you use in your artwork, back in the day when I took art, they're like, you can't put this color next to this color. You can't put this color next to that color. And you just boldly go where no one has gone before. What has inspired you to do that?
So if you look at each one of the paintings, I don't want to bring them up again, but each one I work in threes. So I'm working on three sculptures right now. I did the three sculptures for that show, that on that. And every time I do those hexagon canvases that I make myself, I work in threes. Because again, it's that one idea, and how many times can I change it? And so when I did the first set of paintings a couple years ago, as I was drawing, I had the original idea, and it was symmetrical with certain colors. It's like, well, I got to see what it looks like if I use less symmetry in different colors. And so what was one idea turned into three artworks, which because I work in threes, but then now it's turned into a series of I want to make 15. And I'm just working on it and I'm halfway through it right now. And it's just because I'm so busy during the school year that summer is the only time I get to work on them. So, but I mean, I'm working on the third set right now. And then so it's just a variety of how can that one idea change, in various ways. So each time I do the three paintings, I do one that with symmetry, one with half symmetry, and then the other one that's completely asymmetrical. hmm Just for a
That's
variety of design. Yeah.
that's amazing. So what are you, I mean, are you able to show us some of the stuff you're working on?
Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's do. So there's three pieces that I'm gonna work on. And just give me a second to kind of get situated. In that presentation, of course, I really cut it down a lot. From all the different visits I make to Mexico. But again, I think as an artist, it's like the constant, stimulation of seeing different things. And every time I make a trip, what inspires me or what I want to make a piece about. So what you're seeing here is, of course, a piece in progress. This is going to be an axolotl. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but
Yeah.
it's a salamander, right? And
Mhm.
it's native to Lake Xochimilco, which is just south of Mexico City. And so I've been there before too. I didn't see the axolotls, but I saw all kinds of different things that also inspired me. Um, so I wanted to make an artwork based on this little axolotl. So I'm going to work on this one a little bit, and I'll be working on three different artworks just for a little bit, and just meanwhile just kind of talk about how my process works. This is a white stoneware clay. It's got some grog in it, which is some pre-fired clay, pre-fired ceramic that's wedged into the clay, because clay, when it dries, shrinks, and then when you fire it, it shrinks even more. But some of this grog will keep it from shrinking a whole lot. What I'm kind of doing now is kind of giving it like a little sponge bath, kind of giving it some water, some hydration. I started this series of three pieces that I'm working on today 3 weeks ago. So I can't create a piece um, all in one instance, or maybe even in a week. You have to learn the material of clay, and what it can do, because as it dries, in the process of drying, there's certain things you can do with it in terms of like it holding its form and structure. It's a leather hard stage. We're able to do more options such as adding pieces or carving into them. That's kind of what I'm about to do right now with this sculpture. Now, let's see here. So I do want to show you one thing too. So this is that finished piece that I had just finished a couple months ago. And so I have the form, which is just the basic general shape. And then once I have the form, I'll do these little additions. I'm going to add that to the sculpture that I'm working on. And I think that also kind of creates a good variety too as well. Instead of the form just being plain, I'll add a few additions and then do the glaze, the brushwork that kind of goes along and flows with the form and the additions. So, and then so at this stage, I have to kind of take it in. It's interesting doing this live, but I'm just gonna kind of loosely draw on this. I didn't bring my sketchbook either, but in the spirit of making this work, I don't want to think about it too much. I kind of like it to be spontaneous, but in my current style, let's see, it's gonna have a fin coming down all the way here. It's gonna have these little gills. So I'm kind of sketching onto the form, kind of where I'm going to make some additions. Now some of these shapes I'm kind of lightly sketching onto the body. I think kind of mirror the paintings that I'm working on too as well. So that's where I'm going to put some pieces. And after that, once I add these pieces, I'll kind of decide, um, am I going to draw on it afterwards once it's fired? So I got some clay here. What I'm doing is I'm scoring, which is scoring method is how you attach different pieces of clay together. So firing, when you fire a clay piece to make it from clay to ceramic, there's obviously high temperatures and you have to account for the airflow. So when you just stick two pieces together without scoring, they'll pop off. So scoring is kind of like with slip. Slip is broken down clay with water. It kind of acts like as a glue. And like I said, I started these 3 weeks ago because they're at the point right now. I hope to finish these three this week, if not next week. They're at a really good working stage right now. When I add these additions, I kind of look at the sculpture and I think, where does it have weird kind of bumps or areas that I don't like the flow of them? And so I'm kind of just deciding in the moment of where I want to lay some pieces down. But I'm glad I got to see that those examples of those pieces that I've been working on because this is how they get going. And this is a unique one because I'm gonna stick still with the white body and the different color additions, but I have a base here, which I haven't done yet with one of these sculptures. So I'm very curious to see what I decide as in terms of the glaze for that piece. Those rocks that I did in my graduate school career, a lot of those rocks I did with matte glazes, which they're just not shiny and they're very colorful and vibrant. So I think I might do that with this rock here. Those kind of additions going on there. So an axolotl is going to have two eyes and a mouth, so I'll go ahead and do that next. And then, you know, my style is pretty unique. Eyes don't have to look like eyes, but it's just kind of like an abstraction. I'm not typically looking to render things realistically. That's kind of how my aesthetic is. And the reason for that is, I think I'm a big fan with the monsters and stuff. They were inspired by a lot of different cartoons, movies, comic books, that kind of stuff, pop culture. And I think it's more interesting when it's less human and a little more ambiguous. Any more questions at the moment?
No, it's just fascinating right now to see, how you're doing this.
Yeah. The face, I'm working on this live right now. I was gonna work on it anyway today. It feels different with an audience. But what I'm saying that in
No
terms of
pressure.
I'm saying that in terms of like here's this right now, but I'm not a big fan of it. So if I want to after the recording change it, I will. Just because I'm looking at it right now, I like to have more time to think a little bit.
Do you plan on on those little bumps? Do you plan on making it look like little gems or something?
Yeah, they'll have different, like I'll pick a color palette and I'll pick some bright colors to contrast with the white. Yeah, I might come back and change this just because it's a simple sculpture, but I want the impression to be right. I want the face to be right. And I think I'm kind of missing, the details of still the fins and the gills that I'm going to add later. And it has a little smile too, so I want to make sure I get that little smile in there too. But you kind of see where it's probably going to go. I'm going to add that the two gills here and the fin, later on when I come back to it.
I love how the eyes are completely different
Right.
shaped.
Yeah,
That's definitely your style.
yeah, that's what I was talking about. It needs to look, I think, a little more alien, right? A little, because I think it's like the idea or that philosophy of the otherness, right? So when it doesn't belong in its own category, what is it? So I'll go ahead and stop on this one. I'm really excited about finishing it though.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what it looks like finished. We're pre-recording now in the summer, so maybe we will get a chance to see the finished product when this does air in October.
I believe so. If not, then I'm slacking. Drying these is also going to take some time. So everything has to be in progress, just kind of slow. Let's see. So this is that Mr. Hongadinga sculpture.
Oh, yeah.
He's got these little stands right now, just over the weekend or while I'm gone, I'll kind of leave the little stands as insurance. So with this one, I'm going to do some kind of drawing here on the face. I think I'm going to leave it plain, but I'll go ahead and add the different additions in a few different areas. But before that, I'm going to give it that sponge bath. And it's kind of also like burnishing the sculpture. That's how I get them so smooth.
Mhm.
And again, you just can't do this in a matter of hours. You have to give it time for the clay to kind of dry. Just like these, were attached last week, but I probably made the hands or the arms a week before that, so that they're strong enough to hold their own weight. If this was put on immediately, they would just kind of sag and fall.
Yeah, that was my question. Are you putting any wires or anything in between? But you just answered it. Nope.
And it's just the clay by itself.
Hmm.
And I'm confident in my construction method. And of course, it takes time to develop it over the few years. I've been working with clay for 10 years now, next year. And it's just when I have beginning students, either in high school or college, I have to tell them, the longer you work with it, the more you'll understand the material.
Hmm.
And that just comes with time. So what I'm doing here, let's see if you can see. You can kind of burnish the clay too. Again, I'm not going for like a super realistic or really clean aesthetic. If something seems bumpy, then probably add a little addition there. If this was the only sculpture that I was working on for all eternity, I would burnish it because I've seen this clay burnish so much that it has the texture and feeling and look of skin, of human skin. So it's like polished to where it's just soft. And it's not what I'm going for here, but certain areas I still have to kind of work out. So this process for each sculpture does take me a couple days before I add like the final details.
And with this one, are you just going to paint it as opposed to like put other pieces on it?
I'll put some on here in a second, but the majority I do want it to be painted,
Hmm.
just painted on, which is why kind of like the face is blank and flat. For me, that's the
Hmm.
perfect blank canvas,
Yes.
to go ahead and go into it. So this is one where I just showed images, but the form is all flat, right?
Right.
And then the drawing is just loosely painted on there. So I call this one the squeal. I don't like the scream,
Yes.
but he's much smaller. And to me again, there's something to like I'm in the process of working on these that I'm just kind of free. Like this didn't take. This isn't a Renaissance painting, right? It just takes
Right.
me a couple seconds to just draw this on there. And I think there's something kind of really human and inviting about that choice that I have, like a little mustache, like two little strokes there.
Yeah. It also looks like you're having a lot of fun.
Yeah, and
Like,
that's what I was kind of just saying. I don't want to take
yeah.
myself too serious though.
Well, and I love the image, the side image of this piece here is the
Uh-huh.
shape is just really unique.
Let's see how far we can get. So you can see a little more. And what you're seeing, he is kind of like tilted to one side. That is how he's standing. I think the camera has a little, that's probably as straight as it gets, and that's
Hmm.
okay with me, that asymmetry, right?
Hmm.
And he's definitely going to change after I put all the drawings on there. Now, if I wanted to just sketch on here, and I will for purposes of this demonstration, I can go back and erase them later. My little
Hmm.
my little lines, like I just did on that last sculpture. I'm
Hmm.
gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So it's like I have my blank canvas. What do I want to put on it? This one's happy. He has to be happy. And the rest I'll kind of do colors. I might sketch where I want to put those later on.
It's just amazing how you just flow from here to there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
This is definitely your work.
right.
I mean it's very unique. I have never seen anyone actually just do what you do.
Thank you. Again, there's like a little abstraction. Like I do these three little additions. To me, those are kind of like, paws or claws, but just less menacing.
Didn't you say I see some superhero inspiration? Didn't you say that you very early work you were inspired by some superhero or like comic books?
Definitely.
Hmm.
Um, and here's a tangent, but it's a good one because I mean it kind of comes into my work too. But I had just this vivid imagination as a child, and that's where all this kind of started for me, my art journey. And then later on, as I was getting older in public school, like I could take art classes, and I just never let it go. But I will say that the initial inspiration was from all those pop culture sources. And so what I would do, my family owned a restaurant, and I would stay in the office and kind of draw. And there was a video store next door to the restaurant, and so I'd take frequent visits to the video store, and the feeling of seeing all those different tapes with different art on it. I think that was my first art experience for me. Just the graphic design of all those covers and getting to imagine the story that a movie or show would play. Um, and like looking at the back of those. So, and it was just like essentially a gallery, right? You just go and you see the image after image after image. So that for me was really, really foundational. Um, and of course, I had the fascination with bringing those characters to life. So if I couldn't afford whatever action figure, I would make a paper representation of it, cut it out, and play with it. And that also, like, I also collect action figures, and I have a collection of over 3,000 of them, and they're
Wow.
different wrestlers and superheroes.
Well, you were definitely a born artist because other people walk into a video store and they see videos.
Uh-huh.
I've never once looked at the art and said and appreciated the art that was around me.
Thank you.
So
But it was. I look very fondly to that time. That's what that experience was for me.
that's cool.
So I keep kind of putting more shapes around it, different kind of organic shapes.
So now, since you're naming this one after the name that your student called you, do you feel that this is a personification of you?
But so okay, potentially what I don't know, maybe it's an artist, maybe I like to entertain, I don't know. Maybe I'm a performer too. But I kind of like, and it just follows the rich history of different artists with their alter egos or personalities. I think, and that kind of does relate to me as well, like escaping your own kind of identity, right? Becoming something else. And that's like wrestling, same thing, different characters being played out on this grand stage. And in the back of my mind, this Honga Dinga character, I'm like, well, what if I became Mr. Honga Dinga and painted my face and attended receptions in character like this? So it has crossed my mind. So yes, you're thinking in the right direction.
Do you know what colors you might be using for him?
So I showed that sketch, that original sketch, kind of as the inspiration for this, and I kind of want to stay, and part of it is also like my aesthetic and how I interpret it, but I do kind of want to stay with that color palette. So it was yellow, mainly yellow, some green, some blue. What I love about these bigger sculptures is just the amount of surface area I have to kind of do these designs. Again, I'm treating it like a canvas, right?
Hmm. I like how you end up you paint them white and then start with the designs, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool how you have so much white space on them.
And that's a big contrast to some of my earlier work.
Yeah, very dark.
Dark, but also just an insane amount of texture that I just kind of meticulously slaved after. Um, and I think also the timing of everything. So like I can do these a little bit faster,
Well, that's because rather than being a student, now you're a teacher.
right?
So it reflects the time of your life, how
Yeah.
much time you have.
So I may not add the additions on this one right now, but I do really enjoy the flow of this, like you described. And so when I come back to this sculpture, I'll decide with the lines I've drawn, I'm definitely going to add a piece there, but something like this might just be painted on instead of
Right,
me add that piece. Yeah.
right.
Kind of here in the back. Would I rather add pieces here or just paint those on? I think I'm just going to paint those on. But here, little areas of interest that I'm kind of deciding on at the moment, like here, like I'll definitely add a piece, that piece there.
Uh-huh.
Just so it's not completely flat and smooth, but it kind of helps your eye kind of, navigate around the sculpture too. So I'm really excited about working on this one.
This is just so much fun. I'm hoping if you do have any of these done by the time we air this, that we'll be able to get just a picture to see how it was completed. No pressure there either.
I really hope to, and like I said, I wanted to get these done in this week or next week, and then have them dry for a month and then fire them. So I think it should come pretty close. I bet you by the time this airs, I'll just have done it like a month before or a couple weeks before.
About how heavy is that?
Um, if I were to guess, maybe 20 pounds. Okay, here
It'll
comes
be
the.
heavier when it's fired, correct?
No, the
Right.
weight kind of stays the same,
Oh,
but
okay.
all that happens is that it does shrink.
Oh, okay. Okay. You can tell I didn't do well in what chemistry.
Now this one, I had a little picture of the sketch in the presentation. I don't have a name for it. I have a nickname for it,
What's your nickname?
and I'm not sure quite what it is yet, but that's okay. But it looks like Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
But yeah, I trust that these are going to be okay to take off. This one's a little scary. Uh,
Yeah, I was to say, don't knock him over on live video.
well, I'll tell you a funny story. This was last week. Um, yeah, because he's kind of like he's really struggling to balance, right? But
Uh-huh.
he stands, so he definitely stands. but all the weight is kind of shifted over here. So like any small move, he'll kind of want to topple over. Well,
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to see him without the stilts last week. So I took those off, and then, well, I kind of want to take a picture too without the stilts. And I had him on this banding wheel, taking my video, and then everything was going fine, but at the very end he did fall over. But
Well,
it's at the stage right now where nothing, this was the first time where nothing happened to it. I mean, it got a little bump on the head, but nothing broke off. So, and that's how I really trust my construction method and the stage that it's working at right now. It's still pretty wet, so I can still add different pieces.
will he be okay when he's completed? He's not going to knock over like during an exhibit?
So what I'll do when if he survives like the firing and all that, I'll have some museum putty or glue. I'll figure out that next part. But firing him in the kiln is also going to be something that's questionable too. So
Uh-huh.
um, the kiln that I'm using for this one is it's the sculpture's too tall to fit in there. So
Oh.
in my mind, I'm like, but he'll have plenty of space laying down. So in my mind, I was like, if I can't fit him um, vertically, then I'll do horizontally. It's just
Mm-hmm.
that when clay dries, it's at its most fragile state. So any kind of little, you know, movement can knock off an arm or something. So I was wondering, it's like, well, how am I going to lay it down? But it's a good thing that he actually did fall because then he was already horizontal. So then I just kind of flipped them over and said, let me see where I'm going to, how I'm going to lay him down when that time comes if I need to. And it's good that happened because I flipped them over and I have to create basically, it'll work. But what I'm going to do after this demonstration is kind of keep playing with it, see where he kind of needs to sit. And
Yeah.
And if I don't want like the little arms or this to be damaged, I'm going to make basically like little stilts of clay to kind of uh, cushion those areas of interest. Like I can put a whole block of clay here, right? So that he's not touching, and this will fire with it and be just fine. And because it's not scored, I'll just be able to lift them out, and these pieces won't be attached.
Cool. Very cool. Now
So
he is almost a combination of the old work that you've done with the monster looking things and now your smooth stuff. So do you feel you're moving back that way?
that's a good question. I think that influence is always going to be there, you know. And I kind of maybe I'll revisit some things later on, but for right now, I'm still going to do on this one the white body and the different colors around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just put a scary face on his foot. You'll be fine. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
Again, it's like night and day, your work. It's so interesting.
should come a little bit closer. So just like I did with that last sculpture, I'm just going to add like I'm just sketching. I'm sketching where I'm going to add different pieces. And this is an original idea. Like I just drew it. I wasn't looking at anything. But when I had these little appendages up here, I definitely had those in mind for doing decorations like this as well. And again, it kind of mirrors. It has that same effect as the canvas shapes.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to stay with the square canvas or rectangle canvas.
Right.
I went to the hexagon, and I can just feel already that after I do my 12 or 15 hexagon paintings, I'll move on to the next thing, and I'll do less geometric shapes and more organic shapes. So I already kind of in my mind know I'm going to evolve and where I'm going to go next, right? So I'm kind of like in the past, present, and future.
Right. Right.
And so with these sculptures now, it's like having these extra bits to me is also like it's a different shaped canvas for me to kind of
Right.
work with. So each one is unique in its own way.
Well, since you do your objects and all of your art in three, will you be sharing like the same color palette of those three images?
Of the sculptures,
Uh-huh.
I think they'll be maybe just a little bit different. And again, that's kind of what I do with the paintings too, is create some kind of variety
Hmm.
with each one.
Is there a reason why you chose three?
It could be any number, but I think three is a good one to start with. Again, having that one idea and how many different times can I change it? Can I just tweak it a little bit for a different result? And I think the more you make, the more you learn. Being an artist has all these unanswered questions. And to me, the teaching, my philosophy of teaching, my philosophy in art, my philosophy in life are really just tied together. So philosophically, it's just I know that I'm never going to get the answers to these questions, but that doesn't stop me from creating. And sometimes you're just like, what is it all for? But if we get too stuck on that, then
Right.
you take the enjoyment out, right?
You know, from this angle, your headpiece
Uh-huh.
seems like a hand.
Interesting.
Hmm.
It is going to be a fun piece to display.
Well, that's it. I've got like a box, which I'm hoping is not recording also. It's the recorder in
Uh-huh.
the way. And so all I was able to see at the, split before you turned it was just almost looked like a hand with a palm and hands. And it's like that just added a whole new image of what you were working on. So that was really cool.
So I'm definitely having a lot of fun with this one. Yeah, anywhere I see like an area of interest where I don't have either a decoration or some line drawings, I'll add that in. And it's just that positive space, negative space.
Hmm.
Again, just working it like a painting, but where you kind of see it from different angles.
Yeah,
Looking
that's,
at it and through the video too, and I'm like, oh, this whole section up here needs something.
yeah, is it the face?
The face, yeah, this is the
Yeah.
head. Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and lay this one down and just conclude that demonstration. Let's see. This foam kind of protects it from wherever it sits.
All righty. Well, that was amazing. How your brain works. Literally, we're able to watch, the creation of your images. Are you going to be changing it all after this?
Oh, the clothes we're talking about?
No, the three images. Are you going to be changing the like it all around all your marks you've made?
Oh, potentially, yeah. Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I'll spend more time with it, and it is a slow process. And I kind of again I'll just it seems simple, but if I'm not happy with the general impression, that you get, because I think first impressions are really important too with an artwork. We're supposed to have these really strong reactions to the work, whether they be positive or negative. But I think I want my work to kind of be happy, right? Or leave you, draw you in first, and then kind of take you on a visual journey, and hopefully you leave with something remarkable. So yeah, those first impressions I think count, and I'll kind of just keep working at it until I'm happy with it.
Yeah, well, your artwork is definitely impressionable, even, especially when you put various styles next to each other. I think I know that the experience I had was, what is happening? What is happening? Has he had a CAT scan? Why is because because it's like, here's one artist and then here's another artist and here's another artist, and it's like, this is supposed to be the same guy. How is this possible? So that's what I really love about your artwork, is that you didn't put yourself in a box. In fact, you seem to like, I'm going to get out of this box and never come back in.
Yeah, and I think the academic side of me, they're or like you're saying, being in the box, like you have to stick with a style or just to develop a voice, or unique voice. And that's kind of what I kind of help with my students with, high school or college is what are they interested in? Just like I kind of talked about my influences, and how do we channel that visually into the artwork and grow you as a student into um, your best version of yourself. And so that I've had the fortune of people and mentors and instructors helping me along my journey. So I share that, and I like being in the teaching environment too as well.
That is neat. I am thrilled that you took an hour today, of your time, because I know you're so busy and this is your creative time, to show us some of your artwork. So we truly thank you for that. And if that, like I said, this is being recorded in the summer because you have your classes in the fall. But if we get some images, or a little bit more completion of some of these, that would be so cool. We'll definitely stick it on the beginning of this video. If anyone has any questions, you can put it in the Facebook comments or when we upload this to YouTube as well, and we will go ahead and get all the information over to our artist here, and he can give ahead, if he's got time, go ahead and give you some answers. Or we might be lucky enough for him to actually be in the live as well. So, so thank you so much, sir, for sharing your world today with us. We truly, truly appreciate it. Um, Guys, make sure you check out his website. We'll put his website in the comments. Go see the amazing artwork that you have. It's just unbelievable. I remember the first impression was, he had a big mural along the wall, and I was at the very end of the art gallery, and I went, who graffitied all over the wall? It was just all wall. And then as I got closer, I went, oh no, this is art. So you definitely make an impression in whatever you do art wise. So, all
Thank you
right.
so
Well,
much
listen,
again.
guys, before we go, I want to remind you that on October 11th, we have the Road to a PhD with Dr. Leanne Temple and Dr. Tammy Samaripa. These are two amazing people who, we actually were able to witness, Dr. Samaripa's road to her degree, and just what it was like to have to do that, plus hold down a full-time job, and family, and like life, day job stuff. So they're going to talk about that. And then on October 12th, we have our poetry slam and open mic. This is always an amazing event that we have, because there are so many talented people here and in the community, and we just love listening to the poetry, the writing, the music, the dance. It's just a lot of fun. So make sure that you get involved with that as well. All righty, Mr. Munguia
Correct.
Jr.
Or Hongadinga maybe in the future.
No, honga ding, I would be sitting here calling you that. Thank you again. And you have an awesome day and have a lot of fun with all of your sculptures.
Thank you.
I I wish I had your job that I could do that all day. That would be great. Don't tell anybody I said that. So, all righty. Well, don't go away, and I will go ahead and finish this out.
Thank you.